Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Scott. I'll be your host today. Got a good show for you today. Got another in-studio guest. I'm going to bring her in just in a moment. As always, you can find this and the back episodes of our podcast at our website. It's called ordinarymarathoner.com. Check it out if you get a chance. You can also find us on the aggregators, places like Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes. And if you like the show, please hit that subscribe button. You'll never miss a new episode that way. You can also find us over at Twitter. Handle there is @OrdMarathoner. That's O-R-D Marathoner. And if you follow me there, I'll follow you back. And you can also find us over at Facebook. Our group there is called The Ordinary Marathoners. Search for the group, add yourself to the group. It's a closed group, so none of your friends are going to see you posting. Really a positive, supportive group. My guest is in the group, as a matter of fact. One other thing, we just want to mention the Ordinary Marathon, our virtual race. It's taking place April 27th through May 6th. No, you do not have to run a full marathon to participate. It's really just a celebration of the running community and all the support we give to one another. We have a great group, and I think we're going to put together a great race. We did the Million Moo March last year. We had a blast, and so I'm just kind of looking to continue it. We're raising money for the American Cancer Society. Just a really good effort. Really happy, and the race director that's helping us out. Just want to give him a plug here because we've been plugging all our sponsors for the race. But Forever Home Running, run by Scott Frassard, who I don't even know if that's how you pronounce his name. I'm just kind of guessing, but I think so. You've dealt with him.
Yeah, he's nice.
He's a good guy. He's helping us out. So, if you get a chance, check out his website as well. And so that brings us to our guest today. So, interestingly enough, I don't want to tell too much of how I met you, but let me just introduce you, then we'll get into that. Because otherwise, you'll be sitting here while I tell the story. And of course, because I'm such a bad host, I didn't even ask you in advance. Because you're on Facebook, you're Laura Ann Stebbins.
I am.
But do you actually use your middle name?
I do not.
So
no.
Laura Stebbins, everyone. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Well, thank you.
So, all right. So it's really strange how we met. Mm-hmm. Right? It's really kind of strange. So, you guys will know that my coach, my triathlon coach, Nick Cumbo, him and I don't live anywhere really near each other. He's about an hour and a half away. He lives near Boston. So Nick has, coaches a lot of people this way. He coaches a lot of people sort of, I guess, virtually, right?
Yep.
So he's like, he's not there to whip you into shape and make sure you do your workouts. He kind of stands from a distance. He plans your workout. He answers questions, and he's really good that way. But it turns out that he's also coaching Laura, who happens to live less than a mile from my house.
Yep. We had no idea until... And
it was kind of crazy. So I think you actually went out to meet him.
I did.
And this was probably twice since I've known you, but,
yes.
and which is funny because you've met him more times
than I've met you.
Right. You've probably seen me running and didn't know it was me. Actually you haven't because I do all my work on the treadmill. So unless you're in my basement. So I remember you were driving out to go see Nick, and I saw you post something on Facebook like that you were going out to see Nick, and it had our town underneath, East Longmeadow. And I thought, oh, she must just be like passing through.
What a coincidence. She's tagging in while she...
Right, hanging out in East Longmeadow.
Yeah.
But it turns out you live here.
I do. Yep.
Which is, so I guess I got to ask you, how did you go about finding Nick? How did that happen?
So I found Nick through Pathetic Triathletes page. I was working with a coach, and she's great. Her name is Kelly. And she got me to a point where I was comfortable, but I needed more. So I was looking online, and somebody else had actually posted looking for a new coach and getting recommendations. And somebody had posted on the thread, I'm not sure who it is at this point, but Nick's name. So I had reached out to him, and we had a conversation. Found out he is my spirit animal coach.
Really?
He is. You
guys connect.
Yeah. Yep. He's a sarcastic ass, and I love that. I love you, Nick. No, be nice in my workouts. But
yeah, he can get you. You got to be careful what you say about him.
Yeah. So we can go back and forth and just tease each other, and it's completely comfortable. He's super supportive, and I lucked out with him. So, and I'm not just kissing his ass. I actually mean a lot of that.
He probably like said, all right, next month free if you.
Right. Well, when I hung out with him last week, and he said I'd get a $50 off my next.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
get him drunk.
Just plug him. Yeah, exactly. That's the key. Get him drunk.
Get him drunk.
Perfect.
$50 off.
Yep.
He actually owes me a 6-pack of beer. I didn't forget, Nick. I forget what that was. I think, because he's a Bills fan, and I'm a Jets fan, and we bet the game, and I think the Jets must have been one of the few that the Jets actually won. So, so how do you find, the virtual, like this kind of virtual relationship? Like, I don't know, like, I guess for me, I have having that separation to me. It seems like there's always just like a little. I don't know. I feel sometimes like I might need that person that's right on my back, and he does well. Don't get me wrong, he does well. But how do you do you you find like you're just self-motivating? Is that kind of the key?
So I don't need a lot of hand holding, which is good. I like to see the green in training peaks, so I'm pretty proactive.
I get a lot of yellow and some red.
So if there's an option to do, 10 or a 12-mile run, I'm going to do a 12-mile. I'm going to go that extra, just because I like how the green looks. I know it looks positive. And with Nick, if I miss a couple workouts, he knows that's not normal for me, and he'll reach out and be like, what's going on? How can I support you? What do you need? And I struggled a little bit after Lake Placid. I said Lake Placid broke me. So it was my first full Ironman, and
which is coincidentally my first
your
full.
first full.
We just didn't really know each other back then.
Not at all. See, we keep having all these interactions that we don't realize we're having.
Right, you probably passed me. I bet. Maybe. How did you wind up finishing?
I did in 14 hours, 13 minutes, 26 seconds.
Very good. So. I was way north of that. I was like 15:56 or something. So you probably did pass me at some point. What was your swim?
I honestly can't even.
It
wasn't good. It was. All
right,
I think
so you passed me on the
2:04.
bike. I think.
Yeah.
Probably. So I was like 123 or something. I'm surprisingly strong for the swim, which I never really swam before.
Well, that's good then.
Yeah, it was kind of, and that's kind of, but that's how I met. That's how I met Nick. Was that Jen Bergstrom, who is also Nick's client, dragged me out. She's like, you have to do an open water swim. Mm-hmm. Come out here. We'll bring you to the lake. They threw me in. It was 45 degrees outside that day. And I'm sure my listeners have heard this story 100 times because I complain a lot.
I heard it actually on the podcast with Jen. So,
but they got me in the water, and I'm supremely thankful for that, because had I not gone in the open water, it can be a frightening thing.
Oh yeah, I have great pool times in the pool. I have a great pace. You throw me in open water, and it's like a baby deer. I don't know what I'm doing. I get anxious because there's so many people in Lake Placid within the first.
Yeah,
I got punched in the face. Almost lost my goggles immediately into the water. So yeah, it was pretty horrible. And then trying to gather myself and be like, no, this is okay. You can do it.
Now, did you have a strategy when you went in the water, or did you stay on the?
No. So there's the famous cable in Lake Placid.
Which is the cable underneath the course
for the row team. Yep. So
and people fight for the cable.
They do. So I didn't want to be on that cable for that. For that exact reason. So I wanted to be far enough on it where I could still sight it if I wanted to, but not get punched in the face or run over repeatedly.
And you hear horror stories, right?
Yeah. Yep. So I just kind of kept it straight in the first, because it's a 2-loop swim, as you know. Yeah. So the first lap around, I stayed on the outside, but the second lap, I actually, because it thinned out a bit, was able to get on the cable.
Right.
But then I found that a lot of people were going slow on the cable, and I'm having to then swim around and I don't want to be that jerk that's swimming over you.
You don't want to get kicked, and you don't want to get, you don't want to hit somebody. And,
exactly.
People don't sight. I found like a lot of people don't, people cross in front of you, like going the wrong direction. And, it was an interesting experience. I think. So you're doing it again this year? I'm
doing it again this year. Glutton for punishment.
Yeah. So this time I'll be able to know who you are.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. We'll meet up. I'll throw you in the water.
Right. You'll probably pass me on the bike again. And,
that's when I got my fancy new bike this year. So.
Oh, right. You did. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a beauty.
Yeah. My homework for this year was to get an actual tri bike, because last year I did it with my road bike with some aero bars on it. That's Dirty Girl, and she did great. And I wanted to do it again this year on her, and Nick said no. So
get a tri bike.
Yeah, get a tri bike.
There you go. Yeah. It's a good investment. And we have the same bike store.
We do. Great we'll plug them. Competitive Edge. They're fantastic.
And an awesome guy, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep. I have so much fun going there, getting my bike fit done. I'm like hanging out for an extra hour. Just go visit Pat, play with his dog. You know.
Glenn's is
great.
My favorite.
He's hysterical. He's great.
So I remember when I first started, I said to him, I go, Glenn. And this is like I would call him an old grizzled veteran of triathlon and especially bike.
Yeah.
But he actually had an accident. Did he tell you about his accident? I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
Whereas I think his handlebars popped off in a race going downhill, and he went head first into, and I didn't even think they thought he was going to survive it. No. And broke his neck, but he's all right now. Well, for the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part. But so I'm like, yeah, do you know any triathlon coaches? And he goes, triathlon coaches? Ha! He's like, I'll be your triathlon coach. Here's what you do. Run, bike, swim. Do those 3. And that's it.
I think he might have actually told me that story of you when I was there, because he said somebody was looking for a coach and I just told him.
Exactly.
So, unless he's got a lot of people coming and asking about it.
But he's a really good dude. And it's like, it's good to kind of have that, like, get that experience, that knowledge. Because he really, when he fits you on the bike, he shares it with you. He's very open to talking about it, and it's a great place.
And he's old school. He does it the way, it should be done. I'm not saying, there's the computer fit and that works for some people.
Yeah.
But I was there for probably 2 hours just because he's fine tuning.
Yeah.
I would rather spend that time there and having him be that patient and perfecting how the fit is versus somebody just throwing on a machine real quick, being like, all right, good to go. Bye.
Goodbye.
Yeah,
right.
So.
It's a good experience. They're good people down there. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm happy for the plug, actually, because they've done a lot for me. So let's take a step back.
Okay.
A little step back. Ironman.
Yeah.
Right? Now, was this your first triathlon?
Oh, no.
All right. So how long was this? How long? Now, I asked her before the show if she ever did a marathon. You haven't.
I have not. That was my first marathon.
Right. So your first marathon, which that's really cool. That's really cool. But you did triathlons before. So you've run races. You just didn't run not that distance. Long. And those hills in Lake Placid. God damn.
Yeah. Like we said, glutton for punishment coming back this year. And they added more hills this year. So
on the bike, right?
Yep. They changed the bike course.
I haven't really looked at that yet. And it's more hills?
Yeah. It's like an extra 300.
So now there's that down and back to like that. Was it College Street or something like that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so they took out that climb from Jay to Wilmington.
Which sucked.
It sucked. You basically take a right and then you're just immediately going up at a 7% grade
for 5 miles.
Forever. Yep. So actually when I was on that for the second time around, Andy Potts ended up coming for his second loop and he was next to me. I'm like, hi, Andy. my first time, so you're like fourth probably. Just keep lapping around before you go up.
The thing I noticed about them, so I got passed by them as well, obviously. Their bikes just make a different sound.
Oh yeah,
it's
they're coming.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, besides the motorcycles passing with them, they drove by me, and I don't know if he came off the bike first or if it was the guy who won it. Oh, I can't remember his name. But the guy who won it actually did very well at Kona. Mm-hmm. I've watched that video a few times. I think he was top 5. Was he? I can't remember if he was UK or Canadian, but anyway, those bikes, when they come by, it's like a whoosh, like I think I was going up a little grade and, everyone's kind of like struggling, pedaling and in their, their easy gear. And these guys it's insane.
Yeah. They make you feel like you're not even working.
Right.
Like, just stand still.
But hey, you got to give it to them for that.
That's why they're the pros.
Yeah, exactly. I just think it's because they have better bikes. It's just
See, if you gave me that bike, I would have easily won. So
right. So when did you start? So when you started say exercising? 'Cause I know beforehand there must have been like a certain point when you started.
Yes.
Because I know you mentioned beforehand, and we're going to talk about another event that happened to you in the second half of the podcast. You're going to want to stay tuned for that, folks, by the way. But anyway, at that point, which I think was 2013, you weren't really doing anything.
No, I wasn't.
So what started you into triathlon?
Yeah, so I was really inactive. I didn't do a lot of stuff. I was never a runner, didn't know how to swim, ride a bike. I think the last time before triathlon that I rode a bike, I was probably 10, and my little pony bike. But I started going to the gym and working out and just doing a lot of strength stuff because that's what people around me were doing. And then
Health Tracks.
Health Tracks, yes, yep.
That's our gym.
Yeah, Health Tracks. We also go to the same gym. So I was doing a lot of strength training, and one of the doctors that I work with had a Try It Forward thing. And she said, I see that you're doing a lot of this, training stuff. Would you be interested in this? And she sent it to me, and it was just basically an invitation to look into triathlon and to do that kind of stuff. And I very fortunately had someone right up the hall who is an Ironman triathlete, one of the physical therapists. And I know how passionate he is about it and how passionate she was about it. And I was like, all right, well, I'll look into it and I'll check it out. And then I did a little indoor triathlon that winter. I was like, oh, well, that's kind of fun.
Right.
I could get into this. And I'm like, I'm a triathlete now. I did this one indoor triathlon.
You get the tattoo. You're like, indoor triathlon tattoo.
Exactly. And then, so I had done that. I was planning on doing a couple races in the summer. And then I did Ragnar. Which,
right.
Yeah.
Did you do Cape Cod?
I did Cape Cod. Yep.
Was that just this past year?
It was a couple years ago. So, 20, what year are we now? 28. So 2016, I did the Ragnar.
How did you think, I hear different things about that race.
I love it. Yeah. I loved it. I had such a fantastic time. And I think the biggest part of that was I had a great van of people.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the key.
Yep.
You're in such close quarters for 2 days.
Exactly. You see people at their worst. Everybody smells. You're stuck in a van together. It's
perfect.
Exactly. So one of my girlfriends from high school, Courtney, had recruited me for her team because she had someone drop out, and she just said, I see you've been working out, and she knows I'm not really a strong runner at that point. So she invited me to just go do it, and I had the smallest amount of miles that I had to run, but my van was full of triathletes.
Ooh.
So
yeah.
So my coach before, Nick Kelly, she was the one who put the team together, and her husband Ryan, and then my best friend Jen Amend was in the van. Right. I got to meet her then. Another really good friend of mine, Amy Hooper, is in there, and Jason, and I was surrounded by triathletes, and they just helped kind of confirm to me that this is fun. Like it's at first it was really intimidating to me, but it was just such a great group of people, and they made me feel so comfortable around them because I was nervous. I wasn't a runner. And
especially when you go to race it, it's like, it's nerve wracking if you don't have that experience of doing it.
Right. And I'm just telling them, I'm like, listen, I'm not a good runner. I don't do this. So, but they were still so supportive. And I'll remember forever, I actually printed it out in a thing, but a screenshot of a text message I had got because I was doing the night run. And it was one of the girls, Kelly, she had reached out to the team, the van that was waiting for us because I was the 6th runner. And that we were supposed to meet them an hour later than we were. And she just said, Laura's trucking, be there at this time. And because they saw me halfway through, and I felt just so great. And I think a lot of it was the support of the team. Sure. And having those people they pulled me into doing the triathlons. And
so when you started doing the triathlons, now you did the shorter one indoors. Yep.
And then I did Westfield Wave, which was a sprint.
Okay.
And at this point, I didn't know how to ride a bike. I could pedal a bike, but I think I did the entire thing in large chain ring as hard as it could. So going up hills, there was no shifting, and struggle busted the whole way through. I didn't know how to swim. I could get in, I could splash around, but I was not a swimmer. Sounds like a horror
story. It's like, I don't swim, I don't bike, but I love triathlon.
I love triathlon. Yeah, so I actually ended up YouTubing a lot of swim videos. And it makes a big difference. And
YouTube's great for that.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I YouTubed a lot and learned how to swim. And then going out and riding bikes with other people that are like, this is how you shift. It's like you just had
the Matrix. Remember, you ever see the Matrix where they just download the lesson into your brain?
Yeah.
It's like, here you go. You can swim.
Yep, you got it. Yeah. So I actually took to swimming pretty well. And then once I learned how to shift, I can actually ride a bike now.
Nice.
So that's
helpful. You needed that in Lake Placid.
Oh yeah,
sure.
lots and lots and lots of shifting. I do like to live in the big chain ring though. I like. I feel like I get more for the power, and it doesn't cook my legs.
I agree. So, and I actually used to be a small chain person, and I would never come out of the small chain. I just go all the way to the more difficult side of the back ring. And actually, Glenn told me to do that. He wanted me to spin faster. Because I think that's like a common I don't know if it's a common error, but it's a way to work, I guess, when you're just starting out, is to just keep it in like a lower gear and spin them faster. Because I think the body naturally wants to be at a slower cadence, and you don't realize how, these pros, they're like a 90 RPM, and like,
I don't like doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
So for a while, I was in the small chain ring, and till I went to Lake Placid for a training weekend, the person that I was with is like, "Do you like having a high cadence?" And I'm like, "No." It was terrible. I would like feel like my legs are cooking. Like, switch over to the large one, and they did, and it made such a difference. And
I did the same thing. Yeah, I went through the same sort of thought process, and now I really don't even like getting out of the big chain, especially around here. Well, the trails I run, you go in the hills, so I can't say around here. She goes on the hills. I have a nice little trail.
Yeah, till this year, cars. Until now, I'm going to make you go.
She's dragging me out, she says. Yeah. But yeah, so like on the trail, I can pretty much, there's occasionally a couple small hills, but nothing big. I can pretty much stay in the big chain, 95% of the time, which I love to do. But yeah, when you get those hills, you really got to, I don't know. Just saying the word hills and Lake Placid, I'm having flashbacks. Yeah. So when did you decide, when did you decide that Ironman could be a thing for you? This is like a really long podcast. It's going to be, and I don't care. Keep talking.
So I did a couple sprints that summer that I first started. I started working with Kelly, and we were just doing little races. Then I did an Olympic, and then it was the next year. I'm like, you know what? I want to do more. Like, I feel like I can. I really enjoy this. Like, it was the second that I realized it was something that, I loved. And I had Ironman around me. Like, everyone everyone I'm in contact with is an Ironman. And I wanted to be part of that cool kid club. So,
you got to earn the tattoo. You
exactly. Can't just... Yep. And I got it. It's a nice big one on my right calf. So when I pass people, they'll know. But I did the sprints, I did the Olympic, and then I signed up for my first half, which was Quasi.
Okay.
Which is also a bunch of hills forever. But it was a great warm-up for Lake Placid. So one of the hardest halves that they have, I signed up for my first half, and one of the hardest fulls they have, I signed up for my first full.
There you go. And I tell you, like, I had thought, so I signed up for Ironman a year in advance. I don't know how long you probably had to do that too.
Yeah, it sells out.
And I had never done it. I'd never done a try before. But I was scared to do a half because my thought was, if I do a half and it's really, really hard, it's going to just totally, it is going to totally just crush me for the full. And so I'm kind of glad that I didn't do a half, which is like, I think it's sort of an opposite way of thinking than most people. I know Jen Bergstrom, she's like, oh, you got to work yourself up. She used to think I was nuts that I just never did a try before.
Right.
But it works. Different things work for different people.
You are nuts. Because wasn't that your first one?
It's my first one.
Altogether?
Yeah. I never did a try. See? I never did a transition. Yeah, my helmet broke. I had major, it took me 20 minutes to get out of the first transition.
And you only were an hour behind me. So what is that?
Well, I mean, I trained.
Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah,
I trained,
but for having a broken helmet and not doing the transition, and it's a
so like I finished, and what was interesting for me was that my friends were going to Maryland, so I signed up for Maryland. I did it. I gained maybe 5 pounds after Lake Placid. I mean, after you do something like that, you kind of have to treat yourself a little. bit.
Yeah.
So it was pizza and beers, and and you enjoy life for a little bit. Try to get back on the horse, and I did okay, and actually improved my time by 20 minutes in Maryland. But since then, I've kind of been like, and I gained some weight back. And actually, we talked about the Ironman tattoo, which I've been thinking about getting, but because I've gained like 25 pounds now, I'm like, I was so psyched to get the Ironman tattoo. Yep. And now I'm like, because I'm like, oh, people are going to see the tattoo and be like, oh, that dude did an Ironman. Now that I've gained 25 pounds, people are going to see that tattoo and go, wait, that guy did an Ironman?
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, I could do one of those if he can do it. No.
So, but I think, the last couple of weeks I've been back on track. I'm looking forward to training. You can drag me out there on the hills. I'm deathly afraid of cars.
And you're right. It's good to have a healthy fear of cars because, we all have our interactions with them. I mean, my very first time ever going out on my bike, I was going down, dangerous road by Milton Bradley. And
Yeah. Oh,
and
the main road?
the main road
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Cause I was trying to get into some hills in Connecticut and actually got ran off, the road and ended up blowing both tires on my bike because it just,
By the way, that road to Enfield, Connecticut, when I drive that road, I think to myself, I would never want to bike on that road.
I keep seeing this one cyclonaut who's going by, and cyclonaut is a
Club.
triathlon club, with his Ventum bike. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, that thing's beautiful. And you're going to
Keep it off this road.
Right. Keep it off any
There's
road.
there's like no shoulder to ride on. There's
No,
it's like
nothing.
very thin and people fly.
They do because it's 40 mile an
Yeah.
hour speed limit and
And
people
it's
think
traffic.
it's 60.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people going back and forth. So yeah, if we go biking this summer, that road
That one's off limits.
that's off
We're not
limits
doing
for
that
me. My wife will kill me.
Yeah,
She
it's
sees
the
me on
car.
that road.
Yeah, no, that's the car that's going to run you off the road. It's going to be
She'll be
Stephanie.
the one. She'll be like, get off that road.
Yep. So.
All right. So, we're going to take our first break here. We're not going to take our first break here because I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
So it sounded like about a 3-year process, maybe 4-year process for you from first triathlon to Ironman.
Yes.
A lot of hard work.
Oh, tons.
Really almost like a physiological change. It seems like, and it happened for me too. It's like you go from someone who's not very active. Now you're doing an Ironman. Mm-hmm. When you cross that finish line, how did you feel?
So when I crossed the Quasi, the half one, it was very non-exciting. I crossed and there was nobody there. It's the end of the day. Right. Everything. I was running through and they're, calling, can we close up this aid station now? As I'm going through, I'm like, listen, I'm not the last one. There's still lots of people behind me. So I crossed that one and I felt like nervous because I'm like, all right, now I've got Lake Placid coming up and, what is it going to be? I want that excitement. I want the whatever. Whenever Mike Reilly called my name, I had so many different emotions going on, because I knew that there were people that were supporting me. I knew there were people at the finish line waiting for me. Yeah. So, I just blew a big kiss at Mike Reilly, crossed the finish line. I felt fantastic. Yeah. I fully expected myself to just break out in tears and I didn't. My body felt good. I felt comfortable and there was an overwhelming sense of joy. Did my little jump across the finish line and
you get good pictures?
I did get good pictures. Yep. Got a good video of it too.
Nice.
So, because of course you have to buy the Ironman package. So I get to see myself cross the finish line in like 8 different angles.
Right,
so you get to pick which is the best. But yeah, I took everybody's advice that when you cross the finish line, don't immediately go to your Garmin to shut it off. You want
to get
the picture.
Pictures,
you don't want a picture of you looking down at your watch, shutting it off to get your right
just
time.
Like subtract 10 seconds later on,
So I got to cross the finish and then immediately right there, my friend Jen got to get snuck in to the finish line because, we have some connections with Ironman, which is nice. Yep. So
that's great.
She was right there, got to get my big hug and it was great. It was a beautiful feeling.
Yeah. It's, there's something about like when you put so much work into something and then like the culmination of that work in one moment, that makes it just something you'll never forget.
Oh yeah. My goal was to cross the finish line, feeling good. So the fact that I crossed and
you were okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm like, and then I'm thinking, wait, where could I have gone harder in that race? Should I feel this good?
Well, I tell you what, it's fun because that's what happened to me, and that's one of the reasons I did Maryland was because I had, and maybe you're thinking this. I bet you're thinking this for Lake Placid this year was when I ran this race just to finish,
right?
And when I finished, the moment was great, the moment was fine, but I felt like I left so much on the table, like there was effort out there that was still
right.
Like I walked to my hotel room and I felt like I shouldn't be able to do this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I should be getting a piggyback ride from the people I'm with to get back to the car. But yeah, no, I already am thinking game plan for this year. I know where I can pick up. I actually had a great run. So I felt good. I didn't get the sour stomach like a lot of people did. So I think if I'm going to pick up anywhere, it's going to be on the run because I don't want to try and go extra on the bike.
And the course a little bit better, especially the run course, because the run course is very technical too. The way it's downhill out of town and then, down that, River Road where it's just kind of like flat for a good, I don't know, till mile 6 or 7.
Yeah.
You turn around and then you got to go back uphill.
Up hills.
Yeah. And I remember coming back the first time and I was doing intervals. So we were doing run, walk.
Yep.
And I remember I got to the top of that hill where the turnaround is and we started going back down. And the hill took so much out of me that like I felt like nauseous and I was like, this is bad.
Yeah.
So, but now I know for next year,
Right.
you know?
Where you can push. And
Right.
so I had the game plan. I'm not running up these hills. I'm
Right.
not going to cook myself because these hills are forever.
They're bad.
They're bad. So yeah, no, I'm still going to do that this year. I'm walking those.
I think that's, you know, my game plan is probably going to be something similar. I think I'm going to try to run down out of the town.
Yep.
Off the bike, which sometimes the transition is tough.
Yeah.
Try to run as much as that flat area. And then when I come back in, walk the uphill and then, you know,
Run it out.
And I think, you know, if you can execute, then, you know, I think you pick up time that way.
Oh, yeah.
By having a good
Absolutely.
plan of attack versus just kind of, I was doing intervals. I don't know what you were doing, but
A lot of that.
yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't know. I think just from my technical way I attack and plan this race, I'll do better. And I got a flat tire and I had a broken helmet.
Yeah. No, you had some obstacles.
You didn't get a flat that day, did you?
No, I did not, and I'm knocking on wood
knock
because
on
I've
wood.
not had
I'm
a
sorry
flat.
about that. I shouldn't even ask you.
Yeah,
But I'll tell you this: though, Maryland had jellyfish in the water.
Yeah, they did when I did Atlantic City too. So I was doing the swim for the half,
Yeah.
and it was jellyfish and Dorito bags is what I was swimming through. So
That's horrible. All right, let's take the break now. We're gonna be right back. And like I said, we got a whole separate story to tell after this one when we come back. Hey guys, my friend Lauren is creating an incredible resource for runners and triathletes. It's called raceadvisors.com. She has amassed a list of thousands of races, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, marathons, ultramarathons, and triathlons, and anything in between. If you're thinking about running a race, look it up and check out the reviews. Have a favorite race of your own? Look it up. See what others have to say about it. Or better yet, leave a review of your own. raceadvisors.com. Read it, race it, review it. I want to tell you guys about another great small business I've come across while doing this podcast. It's called Greasy Girl Headbands. I know, I have very short hair, so what could I possibly know about headbands? Well, I know that I bought one for my wife Stephanie and daughter Samantha this Christmas. Stephanie, she uses it for what it was designed for, running and working out. But 8-year-old Sam, well, she just wears hers all the time. So the question is, how can you get one? Well, that's easy. You head on over to greasygirlheadbands.com. It's spelled GREECIE, girlheadbands.com, and select from the many styles and options they have available. I'm sure you'll find one that's just perfect for you. All right, we are back here from break with Laura Stebbins. I don't know how this next part's going to go. It's kind of interesting. I kind of want to. I'm going to segue this way. I want to take you back to April 15th of 2013. Now, I'm sure that for some of you guys out there, that date's probably going to ring a bell, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And some of you, I'll just have to remind you, is that was the day of the Boston Marathon bombing. I myself, we actually watch, it's Patriots Day in Boston, and we actually watch TV in the office. We put on the marathon, and then there's a Red Sox game, and so there's a whole thing. And I just remember from that day, I was out of shape, and I remember, watching everything going on, and I went home that day and I went for a run for like the first time in a long, long time. And I don't even really talk about this because my intent, I think, when I first started that run was that I was going to run the Boston Marathon the next year, no matter what, even if I had to raise money for charity. It's kind of like one of those things that when it happens, it's those stressful kind of moments, these poignant moments that are historical, and they move you to some sort of emotion. And so for that day, it made me want to run. And of course, it didn't really take for me at that point. It took another couple of years for it to take for me, really another year, 6 months, for it to sink in and for me to start running. But Laura has a really kind of more amazing viewpoint from this because you were right there.
I was, yes, unfortunately, but fortunately at the same time.
And so we've mentioned already in the podcast that you hadn't been exercising back then in like that 2013. And obviously this was the event that I had mentioned before. So it's not like you were there running the marathon.
Right. I was being a cheerleader. So I had somebody that was running the race.
Which is like, yeah. So, I mean, and I don't know how to kind of approach this day. I know it's got to be like a sensitive topic. So I think because you were close.
I was, yes.
You were like really close.
Very close. Too close.
So, let's just start, I guess, by framing this a little bit.
Yeah.
So, your friend, it was just like a high school friend,
No, my ex-brother-in-law.
Okay. So you, and he had just trained, you'd been watching him, and
Right.
were you with other people too, I'm assuming?
Yep. My ex-husband and then a friend from high school.
You're just kind of sitting there enjoying the day, having a great day. Now, did he already pass?
He did not. He was actually at mile 25 by the time we got a hold of him afterwards, and it was about 20 minutes after the bombs had gone off. So they were still running, even though they had closed down that last mile. Because nobody could get a hold of anybody. So,
By the way, Jen Bergstrom ran. I don't know if you've
Yes.
ever spoken to her. She ran that day, and she didn't. I don't think she finished either. She was close to the end, but never quite made it there before they stopped her. So it was. Let me. So I know it's really hard. It's really hard.
I know, it's okay.
This is like, this is harder. It's not harder for me, but so obviously there are two bombs go off.
yes.
And you're sitting there, and I know you were closer to the second one than the first. When the first one goes off, what's the scene like? What's going through your head?
So I was on the same side of the street as the bombs, and the first one went off, and it was a distance away from me. It was at the finish line, but I could still see it, and all we saw was a cloud of smoke, and it smelled like fireworks. So
Did you hear it?
Oh yeah, yep. So my immediate thought was there was a finale type thing, and something went off wrong. Like it was just
Fireworks.
right, fireworks that they do at the end of the race, that just something glitched, anything. I didn't know anyone was hurt at that point because you couldn't really tell because it was just a cloud where exactly the bomb was, if it was in the street or part of the display, because they have a big, finish line to cross. So at that point, we didn't really know what was going on. A lot of people were rushing and running in my direction.
Running away
from it towards me. And I have a very vivid image of this one gentleman that ran past, and when I knew something was wrong, was the entire back of his clothes was completely burnt off, and he was bleeding down his back. So that was the first thing I saw when I knew something was wrong, which caused me to look to the right when the second one had gone off.
Which was pretty close.
Right. I don't know the exact yardage of how close, but close enough.
Were you on the street at that point, or were you in a restaurant? Or
So when the first one went off, they shut doors. They wouldn't let anybody in the restaurants or into any of the buildings. So I was on the street, very close to it. When it went off, actually, debris came at us, and I ended up with an immediate ringing in my ears, and I do have some
lost hearing.
Right, yeah, I have some damage in my right ear from the.
Right, and did you know that immediately, or did you know that later on?
So immediately, it's interesting because it kind of like a blackout, like it wasn't really happening type thing was the first reaction.
Right.
Like that didn't so there was the loud ringing in the ear, but there was a whole bunch of stuff going on because there's people running in every
I'm
direction.
assuming at this point there's people screaming, and then have,
Yep.
Are more people running? I mean, you said that people were running towards you, but did you find that more people were running away from the scene, or are there people actually running towards the scene?
When the second one went off, everyone just kind of crouched and just kind of held on.
Well, then you don't know either.
Right, because you don't know where they are, because we're like, are they making their way down the street? Like, how many more are there? Yeah. So we just kind of crouched in place, and also we had police officers that just told everybody they needed to stay still. Like, they didn't want anybody going anywhere.
Right.
So we were just kind of, the other side of the street, however, they all cleared out. They were all gone. I don't know where they ended up going, but just looking, I remember from being my crouched position to getting up and looking and seeing, like, it felt like no one was there.
Right. I just, Oh, man. So, and I lived in New York for 9/11, and I was in Midtown, and we had a really good view of the towers, and I lived in Manhattan at the time. So I walked home that day, and I remember when the second building was hit, and then there was a rumor that there was another plane, which I don't know if that was the Shanksville plane or not. But I remember that time, the two targets they had mentioned in New York after the Twin Towers would have been the Empire State Building and the UN. And my building was smack dab in between both of them. So, there was still work to be done at work. So it was like, we're all at work, and we're looking out the window. There's tragedy going on, and now there's another plane on the way, and we're like, screw the work.
Right.
At that point, it's like, if my building gets hit, I'm dead.
Right. So
I'm going home.
Right.
So I almost, I only mentioned that story because, when you talk about the two bombs going off, and then now you're
don't know
here
what's
and
gonna
you're
happen
crouched
next.
down, and is it like, are we done here, or
Right.
is this just the beginning of something even bigger?
Right. So, and then they didn't know what else was going on. And my first thought was, first I had to find Bobby because he's running this race and we don't know what's going on or what he is.
Maybe he has a cell phone on him.
And he had his phone on him.
Lucky.
He had his phone on him. But they shut cell phones down for 20 minutes after the bombs went off.
Yeah, and you can't,
Yeah, so they shut them off because they thought maybe it was a remote by cell phone. So they didn't want anybody to be setting things off. So they shut them off. So that was terrible because we can't get a hold of him and people can't get a hold of me. So loved ones who know that I'm there.
Yeah.
It was almost immediate that it was out in the public. So I got my voicemail. I have the most heartbreaking message from my grandmother who's trying to get a hold of me because nobody knows if you're okay, what's going on.
And then you're not picking up the phone. But,
right.
And then again, it's like, even when 9/11 happened too, in New York, you couldn't make a phone call.
No.
I mean, and they didn't shut down the cell phones. They were so overloaded.
Busy. Yeah.
You couldn't even get a signal. You couldn't get a phone call through. It took 20 attempts to get one call to go through. So yeah, and I'm sure that's the same thing. And everyone who knows that you're there is looking for you, and everyone.
Right.
And then not only that, but your runner is out there, and you kind of probably know a little where he is, but what's going on? Are they? That's a nightmare after that. I mean, so how long did it take, I guess, before you kind of had to clear out of the area? And I know you were really close to the tragedy. So were you helping? Were you?
So
and I didn't mean to be like, oh, you're not helping.
No. So my first reaction, because I'm in the medical field, was to go and to help. But the people that I was with, it's his brother. So they want to go find them, and they're not going to leave me back by myself. So got pulled to go and do that. But I did see a lot of the carnage that happened. And that was kind of what made me want to go help. Well, not kind of, but that was you see people suffering, and the amount of, civilians that jumped in and went and helped was incredible.
Yeah. And that's like bravery.
Oh
that
is, completely. Cause you don't know what's going to happen next, what's around you. But yeah, the people were fantastic that went and helped. And
even to deal with the gruesome, I've seen some gruesome injuries before, but I saw some pictures of the area, and it's not pretty. Right.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I saw a lot of that, like people with missing limbs and somebody one of the people that had ended up passing away. I saw that. So it gives you a whole new perspective on things, and
I'm sure.
Yeah, makes you appreciate a lot more. Seeing that. It's terrible to see that. And for a while I didn't even remember seeing that. And I have pictures on my phone, from having my phone out, but I'm not out there taking pictures of things, and I couldn't look at them for a while until, actually the FBI contacted me.
Really?
Yeah, I had posted a picture online, before the bombs had gone off, and it was actually like almost immediately before the bombs went off, because I was taking pictures of the flags and the finish line and everything cool. So I had posted this picture, and I didn't notice it, but somebody else had reached out and said, "Is the bomber in your picture?" And I pulled up my phone, and I actually have a picture of the bomber carrying the first bomb in his backpack. And it was 1 minute and 20 seconds before the bomb had gone off. And I immediately looked at him. I'm like, I know that guy. That guy just bumped into me, and I turned around and I told him he was an asshole as I'm taking a picture of this.
I didn't know how much
of an asshole. Yeah. And you can actually see the bomb weighed down in his backpack. And yeah. You want to see?
My God.
So it's like you're so close to things and you don't realize.
Yeah. And my experience in New York, I didn't really, I think I saw a few jumpers, which is frightening. But that's Jesus. Wow. That's him, huh?
Yep. So,
That's insane.
yeah. So it was an interesting, and so that
was the second one.
This was the first one.
Oh, that was the first one.
That's the brother that died.
Right.
Yeah. So
okay,
that was the one that was by the finish line.
Yeah. That's the one they shot like a couple days later.
Yeah, and then his brother ran him over.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, then they were like throwing. I don't even remember.
It was a mess.
Yeah, those days were crazy.
Yeah.
In Boston. And now, do you live in Boston? Did you live in Boston at the time?
I did not. No, I lived actually out in Belchertown, outside of Belchertown,
which is out west, like near Springfieldish.
Yeah.
So, man.
Yeah. So the bombs went off, and then our first thing, we got Bobby, and then we're like, we're going to just get out of the town. And then we made it to Cambridge, and we're standing out in Cambridge, and all of a sudden all these cop cars start pulling up, and we're like, what the heck? And it was because there was that library in Cambridge that they said that there was a bomb in the mailbox or something like that, because it was smoking.
There was like a JFK library or something, right?
I was standing outside of that when they all started coming. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I just need to get whatever. And it was a hard thing to try and get.
FBI's like, look, this one cell phone was right near all.
Right.
Oh, they're gonna think you did it.
Yeah. So no.
But what an incredible story. Now, I think I know the answer to this question already. So, but I feel like I kind of have to ask it. Did this experience that you had at the marathon translate at all into your development as a endurance athlete?
100%.
Oh, see, I thought you were going to say no.
No, it absolutely did. So I'm
glad I asked.
So I was kind of having a bit of a pity party for a little while.
Yeah. I
had some bad survivor's guilt, some PTSD issues that I had, and I still deal with, because you never really truly get over that. So for a while, I didn't really do anything. I just kind of sat quiet and had some me time and worked through it. But then went and talked to somebody, and like I should, and they're like, you need to stop watching the news. You need to stop obsessing over things. And, they suggested the outlet of me going and doing like exercising and working out. And that's when I started going to the gym and just doing some me stuff and having some, time, because you release so many endorphins when you're working out. And, it started to make me feel better. And then I started doing a little bit of running, not a lot, but I'm like, I need to do something more. I want to do something more. Right. I would like to do a 5K at that point.
Yeah, I was in that boat for sure.
So I didn't think at that point I'd be able to go run a marathon, but now I know that I can.
You definitely can.
But it really helped me have a new perception of things, because I would not be social. I was not somebody that would go out and have a conversation with someone or feel okay. Like this right here, this little interview.
And you're really good at that. I mean, obviously, you don't sound like you're having any problems.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, this would never have happened before that, because I was a nervous, shy person, and this has really helped me realize there's more out there, and you need to live life to the fullest. So going on in that Ragnar van with all these people that I don't know, that was so out of my comfort zone.
I like the way that you brought the whole interview full circle.
Yeah.
That was really
good. See, that was totally unintentional. That would be something that I wouldn't normally do. And I remember right away when we got in the van, I was sitting in the front and everybody was behind me, and excuse me, I couldn't really hear people that were talking, just because the tone that they were talking in my ear, it's actually, the hearing's improved, but I still couldn't hear very well the conversations that were going on. So I was texting my friend Courtney that's in the back. I'm like, I feel bad. I'm like, I can't hear the conversation. So I don't want them to think that I'm just not contributing. I'm just sitting up here. Right. And then it was within 5 minutes that everybody was just, making sure to speak up and coming up and involving me. And that was such a great experience too. And now I can go to a race. So like my very first actual triathlon, I made a friend. I was just the person next to me, just talking to him. And now every race I go to, I bring friends home. Like I have friends that are out in Boston and everything. And it's
something with this community. I find that
the support is fantastic.
There's definitely, like, you have the general population of which, say, X% are assholes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In the running community, that percentage is much smaller.
Oh, yes.
as a subdivision, it's much smaller. Yeah. And everyone seems to be friendly, supportive. And you would think, I kind of say this all the time, but you would think that we're all racing each other.
Right. And
there might be like a little level of competition or I got to beat this person, but there really isn't. It's really, and maybe that's all because, there's certain ways you can deal with stress, right? I mean, you can hit the bottle, you can do drugs, you can gamble, you can whatever, sleep through your alarm clock, don't go to work, whatever. But then some people, I think probably like both of us, find exercise as an outlet.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like the healthy outlet. And it's just, and you can get obsessed. And I've been accused by friends of being a little bit obsessed.
Yes.
Like, oh, you're obsessed with marathon. Oh, just because I didn't run a marathon, you're better than me. Like that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not like that at all, but it's like, it's almost like a physiological change, I feel like, in my brain, or, that like a switch flipped, and all of a sudden I was exercising and running, and it felt productive and good. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like because it's a physical activity, and maybe because you sweat and because you have pain,
right?
It makes it real. It makes it like an experience. And maybe some of that derives from, for me being in New York for 9/11, or reflecting on the Boston Marathon bombings, and for you being there, obviously. Maybe some of that derives from those experiences where, I think forever we're caged as children in institutional schools, and, parents used to hit you as a kid, but now they're not allowed to touch you.
No.
You're kind of like deprived of sort of like that real, unless you've been a soldier at war or something like that, you're kind of like deprived of like this feeling of, holy shit, like that doesn't exist. Like you've never experienced it until you experience it in that kind of level of stress environment.
Right. And so then it also in the van with me, which was great for Ragnar, was my friend Jen, who I've spoke about a lot. And she was actually there, and she was running that day, and she had finished very shortly before the bombs had gone off. So she fortunately crossed the finish line safely, and she was having the phones down, couldn't get a hold of her husband, and then they were stored up in the hotel room. So we had stories that we could share, and I could really relate to her. And it was nice to know, like, oh, I'm not alone. Other people, because the people that I was with that day were very unsupportive, hence the ex-husband part of it. One of those just suck it up, get over it kind of things. But I was able to find that the people around me can be like super supportive. You just got to be willing to open up and talk to people about it. And it's definitely, I say it was one of the worst days of my life because it was a tragedy. It was terrible, but it helped shape me as the person that I am now. And I'm thankful for that. So.
And it seems like you're enjoying the person that you are.
I am.
I
went out with some friends, and they're like, wow, Laura. I'm like, what? And they're like, I've never seen you so happy. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, well, what's different? They're like, you're confident. I'm like, oh, that's the nicest compliment I've ever got. Not, oh, you've lost 60 pounds since then, or you've got this going on. It's just that my
your persona, attitude. It's like an outward glow kind of thing. Like, I
can go out. I don't have to like load up on makeup if I want to go to the pizza shop and grab a beer. I'll go there in my sweats with my hair in a messy bun, no makeup on, and I feel just as good as if I was painted face.
Well, you know what? You got the Ironman tattoo.
I do.
You'd always just, if anyone ever says anything, you just be like, hey.
Oh no, they're very well aware. The guys from high school, these big football players. Oh, what have you been up to, Laura? Oh, well, I just did an Ironman. What? Like you rode your bike to like Boston and back.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep.
It's crazy. The people at the pizza shop, they put like the pepperoni and the Ironman logo.
Yeah. That would be great. That would be great if they did. They have sadly not done that for me yet, though. So maybe one day. Maybe they'll listen to this next time I go. I'll get a Ironman pizza.
Well, listen. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
This was really cool. Like we talked for a long time. It's one of my longest interviews. I'm really happy about that.
Good.
Looking forward to getting out and riding the bike.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you're not getting out of those hills. So.
No, all right. I need them. I need the hills.
You do.
Nick's getting mad at me lately because I'm too many yellows.
This is why I'm getting that $50 off. It's actually really to take you out on hills.
There you go. So. It dragged me out. It's getting close though. It's starting to warm up.
It is. Yeah, and, it popped up on my alert the other day that it's. Yep. I think 19 weekends.
I think I started. I started riding last year in late March. So hopefully it's coming.
Yeah.
A couple more snowstorms, I think.
We'll see. I'm over it.
But it's coming. So thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Love your story. It's incredible. One of the more, I think, one of the better interviews here.
Good. Thanks.
Ever. Episode 75, I think.
Yeah.
All right. So, I think last week I had mentioned we were going to have Ramon Burmo from American Cancer Society on the program. That didn't work out because we had the day of the interview, it snowed, and he lost his power. So we skipped right on to Laura, which very happy about. So we're going to have Ramon back. We have a lot of guests coming on the show next couple weeks. Denny Cray. I'm like drawing a blank. Benjamin Hinton is going to come on. Mike Taruso. Oh, geez. Yeah, I forgot about those guys. So all of Nick's, we have like a little Facebook chat group.
Yep.
We got to mention them, I guess.
Yeah, we do.
I'm not going to go name by name. We'll have them on. But I've kind of like escaped from that.
Yeah, you try and pull him back in.
Every once in a while, you guys get me for a couple sentences, but I can't keep up. You guys,
no, because I'll look at my phone all of a sudden. It's like you have 40 unread messages.
Like, I missed the whole conversation. I can't,
Just wait till the next one.
But yeah, I sort of agreed to have them come on if they jump on Skype, and we're gonna try to have a. And if you don't have Skype, you're more than welcome to come by, and have a group podcast, which would be a new thing, but. Trying new things. I mean, that's what it's all about. Ironman, Ragnar, trying new things. So until then, I don't even know who my next guest is. That's probably my next one, next Friday. But until then, always remember, when it comes to running, I'm no expert. I'm just ordinary.